Hey everyone, and welcome to my weekly check-in vlog, where I take you along for the weekend to see how I'm doing and what I'm reading. My name is Wiebke, and this year I'm trying to get myself out of survival mode. Honestly, this week has been a little bit tough. Mostly I have been unhappy with myself. And so I decided to have a shorty September kind of weekend, meaning reading short books. And I am a few chapters into a short 5-hour-ish audiobook, Bad Habit, which I hope to finish the last 3 hours-ish of easily today and tomorrow. The story, I have no clue really what it exactly is. I went into it mostly blind. It's set in Spain and we have a female narrator telling us about her childhood. So far, every chapter addresses something where she grew up or about the area she grew up, but so far I'm not really sure where things are going. The other 2 books I want to read, because the plan is to finish one short book every day, is Hunger. This is apparently a Korean cult classic, and I think it's about someone eating their dead husband. Not sure, but I'm curious to see how this is going. And the other one is Sympathy, Tokyo Tower, which I have no clue about, but I just fell in love with the cover, and it's also very short. So I'm very optimistic that I can finish those 2 books and figure out what they're about and see if it was worth buying a Korean cult classic and a cover buy. But now I'm off to go running in the sunshine. It looks like it's going to be a super beautiful fall day today. So maybe we can also go read outside in a cafe. Let's see about that. But first, running and more of Bad Habit. Talk to you later. I managed to completely miscalculate the time or misjudge how many hours are in the day. After my run, it was already midday, and then I had breakfast and I started reading Sympathy, Tokyo Tower, which took me all day. I basically didn't leave my balcony. I sat there reading for hours on end, and it took me a while to get into the book. And I think if I hadn't planned on finishing it in one go or today, I might have actually DNF'd it. It's not a captivating, compelling story. It had me rather confused. This book is about a tower, which is called Sympathy Tokyo Tower, and it's a prison they're building or going to build in the middle of Tokyo in a park. And it's the story of the architect. We meet her first when she's about to enter the competition for the designs and her thoughts. She has a very strong inner monologue, and she's always talking to herself, censoring herself, and looking at language. There's a lot about Japanese language which she deals with in the beginning. She also has a boyfriend who is younger than her, who is our second main character and narrator of the story. Because at some point the narration shifts to first there was an excerpt from a book, The Sympathy Tower. Let's move backward a little bit. The Sympathy Tower is, like I said, a prison that is going to be built and will be built during the course of the novel. But the idea behind that is that there was some happiness professor and researcher who decided that we shouldn't call criminals criminals anymore and shouldn't treat them like that because they might not have a choice in their criminality, and that life made them like that. And so there's an excerpt from his book. And the boyfriend that I mentioned before is also mentioned in the book, sort of. There is a connection to the book. So after we meet the architect, we read the excerpt from the book, and then we get the perspective of the boyfriend or the young man that she has met at the time in the beginning. And we see his perception of the architect, and which adds more to her and rounds her character a little bit more, but it's also telling us a lot about him and his perception and his connection to the tower. So things move on and the tower is built, and then there are repercussions and things ongoing in what it actually means to live in that tower. And there I am, where I'm not really sure what the book wants to tell me. It's talking a lot about words, that's definite. It feels like it is a commentary on how words shape our world and how words can also make our prison or imprison ourselves, especially in the architect who's always constantly listening to her inner censor that she also calls inner censor and talks about frequently and openly with others, that the language that she uses and trying not to offend people. That is also something that is part of the tower and the sympathy that the happiness researcher wants to inflict, or not inflict, that's a negative word. Basically that's the thing. You are not allowed or not supposed to use negative language inside the tower so that the criminals don't get branded as criminals. They need to look at themselves positively and reframe everything positively, and there's no comparison allowed. And it's a lot about how we use language, and it feels a little bit like a criticism towards toxic positivity, where you're always forced or advised to only think positive thoughts, only say positive words, don't use negative words, don't frame things in a negative way. And, you know, the way we're supposed to talk about ourselves in a positive way and use the words to not put us down but lift us up. Things like that. And that's the main thing I got out of this. There's also a hyper presence of AI. Everybody is using an AI build, which is a chatbot that they're constantly asking questions to and getting answers. A lot of the book is dealing with questions and answers and how we interpret what the question is, how we interpret what the answer is, and what the people hearing the answer might think of it. So it's an interesting look at language. It's also somewhat interesting with architecture and what buildings do and how buildings affect the surroundings, and also the idea of criminals getting a good life and the prison. It's actually a nice building and you want to live in this tower. You don't have to pay rent. It's something like a nice high-rise with proper amenities and you get to live in there for free. Yes, you need to be happy all the time and positive and you're not allowed to leave, but still compared to prisons, it is the nicest one you can get. So there's a commentary on that too. But that's just it. It feels like there is a lot of commentary on things, and in the end I don't know what the book wants to do. But it is interesting how it makes you think about language. Cover by was a half success. Still think it's a beautiful cover. So I am going to finish the day on my couch doing nothing, watching, what am I watching? The Story of Park's marriage contract. I think I have to finish that, or I want to finish that today. Maybe manage, I don't know. It's a rewatch. I didn't feel like anything else and I wanted to have a quick show, so 12 episodes is something like a quick show. Anyways, I'll talk to you again tomorrow. I have about 1.5 hours left in Bad Habit, and I'll tell you all about that once I finish that. And then there's also the plan to finish reading Hunger. Let's see if my time management goes better tomorrow. Insomnia and backache is not my friend. I have been dealing with backache the whole week, which makes me have a bad mood and less motivated to do things. And now I have been awake since 3 a.m. and it's kind of annoying. So I am on my way to take Hunger to a coffee shop and see if I can get coffee and start the book. I haven't started yet, so let's hope I can read this all day. So I just spent the last 3 hours sitting at a cafe reading Hunger, and let me tell you, I'm broken. I know I said this book is about someone eating someone else, and that's true. It's about this woman eating the dead body of her lover after finding him dead on the street. But it's also about their love story, about their obsessiveness with each other ever since meeting since childhood. The story is told both from her and his perspective. The times they spent apart, the times they spent together, and also the struggles they faced, either together or apart, and how many hardships life threw at them, and how many obstacles they found to be together, which they always wanted to be, but it wasn't that easy. And this just broke me. It was really, really good. It's very fast read. It's very snippety. Some chapters are just a paragraph and hard to put down. Very good read. Now I'm at the park, and as soon as I'm recovered a little bit, I am going to start listening to the rest of Bad Habit. And I finished listening to Bad Habit just as I got into the door. This is a story about a trans woman growing up in the 1980s in a working class neighborhood in the outskirts of Madrid. And it is all told from her perspective as a woman. So in the beginning, I wasn't aware that she wasn't a girl back then, because that's how she presented, which is very nicely done. I really liked the narration style and the way the story is told. I also liked how a lot of the book is her early years, being a child, being a teenager, growing up in this working class environment in a neighborhood that is very friendly and accommodating and taking care of itself, but also very blind to parental abuse against women, or also the trans woman that is part of the neighborhood. There is a lot of that people don't see and don't talk about, but there's also the way that she has to navigate male space and how female spaces look. It's a lot about fitting in, trying to blend, trying to find out who she is and where she wants to be and what she wants to do. There's a lot of setbacks and a lot of violence, so be aware of that. The novel doesn't really have a super happy outlook, but it feels very realistic of the experience of someone growing up like that, of the life that someone might have in that area, in that time. And also the violence that she meets is always compared to the violence that women experience, but also especially as someone who isn't perceived as 100% female and crossing the lines, breaking borders. And it feels bad to say I enjoyed that. I really liked how it was portrayed, how realistic it felt, and the way the story is told overall. It really makes you see and feel with the characters. So I would recommend it if you're interested in the topic and can check out trigger warnings if you need to. So that is the end of the vlog and the end of a weekend spending away from myself, the one I don't like that much. I'm going to edit this now and then have some dinner. Thank you for watching. I would like to know how your weekend was. Did you have some nice reading? Are you participating in Shorty September? Do you know what Shorty September is? Let me know in comments, and also let me know if you have read any of the books I read this weekend.